My name is Randy Reed. I am the editor of the Edison Report. I am the editor of Designing Lighting Magazine, and I am the publisher of Designing Lighting Global Magazine, as well as the editor of LM&M, which is the magazine of Nalmco. We're here today to welcome Bill Attardi and his effective sales presentation skills. Many of you know Bill. If you don't, you should. Bill has experience as a consumer and industrial marketing sales executive in our industry. He's been a member of senior management teams in acquisitions, strategic repositioning, and market development. He's worked for companies such as Philips, Westinghouse, Columbia Prescolite Moldcast, and Wellmade. In addition, he has been an adjunct professor at Monmouth University since 2000, where he has taught effective sales presentation skills. And of course, he just continues to update his presentation. He's mentored countless people through our industry, including your humble editor. Bill gave me my big break in 2002. Bill, if you remember that, with Metrolight and its an Israeli startup company, and I am forever indebted to Bill. Now, this is strictly Bill's content. This is not Edison Report. We are simply hosting it, and all credit goes to Bill. And if you have questions throughout, don't wait till the end. Please hit the raise your hand button, and I'm going to do that right now on my screen. Just hit the raise your hand button, and you can also type your question in the Q&A section as well, and we'll answer it. We won't be checking the chat, so don't send us questions there. Send them in the Q&A. And without further ado, Mr. Attardi, the floor is yours.
That's great. Thank you so much, Randy. And good afternoon, everybody. We had over 100 people sign up for this, so I guess I got to do a good job, okay? Anyway, let me start off with a quote from Eric Hoffer, because I'm one that has a passion for learning. And when I saw this quote, I thought it appropriate to start this session with this quote. In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. So I hope we all have a passion for learning. It's a continuing process, not something that you do just once in a while. You do it all the time. And I want to start this particular really dynamic slide that deals specifically.
Now we have sound.
Good. Just when you think he's washed out, look at him. Okay, folks. That was 100-foot, almost 100-foot wave. Now, I don't know how many of you are actually surfers and do surfing, but I don't know how many of you are going to be able to do something like that. So I'm going to ask a question. What do you think allowed him to make those kinds of, ride that kind of a wave? Show of hands. Answer the question. Any question that you have. What are the specific reasons?
Michael Hawkins has raised his hand.
Okay, Mike. Give me a reason why he was able to do that.
Mike Aubrey has also raised his hand. And Mike, okay, lots of practice. Michael Hawkins, he says lots of practice.
Lots of practice, sure. That wasn't the first time he went in the water, I guess, folks, right? Okay, lots of practice, a lot of preparation, a lot of work. That's a good answer. What's another answer? Give me one more.
Mike Aubrey, you got an answer for it? Okay. No fear of the unknown from Mr. Howard Wolfman, who has no fear of the unknown.
No
And
fear.
Aubrey says,
Those are good. Those are good answers, you know.
Jim Hurley. Jim Hurley says confidence and innovation from Scott. I can't pronounce Scott's last name. Cuomo. Innovation.
Yes. Okay. Terrific answers. The bottom line is, yeah, a lot of skill, a lot of preparation, a lot of courage. Courage is also a word, right? You look at a wave like that. In Italian, we call that cogliones. I hope I don't offend anybody, but that's what we say in Italian. You got to have some real cogliones to get in the water with a wave that big. Okay.
Yeah, now, Bill, remember we're in 2023, so keep that in mind.
That's good. Anyway, no question, he was able to ride a wave that big because of all those reasons. And if you remember at the beginning of the slide of the presentation, he had someone on a jet ski actually pull him along. He could not catch that wave on his own. He had to have some help. And in most cases in your business careers, you're not there all by yourself. You're not alone. You have a team. You have some people that you rely on to help you along in the presentation. So those are the reasons. And when you look at that particular thing, it's not that hard. Here's a guy that, and I'll do it very quickly. You think surfing is hard, folks, right? Well, here's a guy that's, he's surfing with his dogs. You know, when you really get good at something, you make it look pretty easy, don't you? Well, maybe that's what we're going to try to do today, to help you along with your presentation skills so that when you get up in front of a group, it gets pretty easy, okay? Anyway, I don't know if any of you have read any of the books by Jim Collins. Good to Great is one of his bestsellers. And he followed up with a book called Great to Choice, Great by Choice, where he says, you know, in any event, you fire bullets before you fire the cannonballs. And I think that's true with the surfers. It's true with almost every activity that you do, where you have to practice, you have to prepare, you have to work hard at doing it, and you do it over and over again before you really challenge yourself with the big event, okay? The point about riding waves is there's danger in the water. And whenever there's danger in the water, you have to be prepared for that danger. And we're going to talk about that. When we talk about preparing for a presentation, be careful of the danger that could happen in any presentation. The key, though, is don't panic. Don't panic, because when you panic, you make things worse. Okay, I set the stage with the waves just to give you a sense as to what we're going to try to accomplish here in this 30 minutes. But I'm a big baseball fan, and my wife will tell you I spend most of my time watching the Yankees play. So 3 umpires were talking shop one day, and I overheard them. And the first umpire said, "I call them like I see them." The second umpire said, "I call them like they are." And the third umpire said, "They ain't nothing till I make the call." Now, it's this guy in the corner that it ain't nothing until he makes the call. Well, with today's technology, he's not the last word anymore. Things have changed, folks, okay? They have to go to these guys in New York to tell them what the right call is. The point I'm making here is it ain't nothing until the customer says it is. In our business, it's the customer that determines whether or not a particular sale goes forward or not. Here's a lady saying, you don't seem to understand, young man. I am profit and you are overhead. Anyway, another man that started the biggest business today is a guy by the name of Sam Walton. And he said it this way: there is only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money somewhere else. Keep that in mind. Again, anytime you have a question, all you have to do is hit the raise button, and Randy will zoom you in so that you can answer question at any time throughout the presentation. Okay. I like to start off. The reason I ask you to ask your questions throughout the presentation is because I believe what Uncle Ben said here. Tell me I will forget, show me I may remember, but involve me and I'll understand. So your involvement is encouraged, okay? I wonder, here's the question. Treat others as you want to be treated. What is that rule? That's a rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated. What's the rule here? I'm sure you remember the rule. It's the golden rule, okay? How many of you remember the platinum rule? What's the platinum rule? It's treat others as they want to be treated, as they want to be treated. Very significant in marketing and sales. You've got to keep the customer in mind and treat them the way they want to be treated. And this is the first session, then first 30 minutes today is an introduction into the selling part of effective presentation skills, and then we'll get into the preparation side. But selling is simply communicating. And that's what we're all about today, is communication. The most powerful sales tool that you have in your bag is what you say and what you do. And what you say and what you do, oral, written, and nonverbal communications. That's what the topic is today with respect to giving a good, effective presentation. Customer benefit sales, that's the approach that we like to present to you all in the sales area. You learn to communicate at a very high level. You know what to say, you know what to do, and very important, do what you say. Know what questions to ask, establish a good conversational tone, and you build rapport. Rapport with your customers, trust, that's called the value exchange. When you can communicate effectively with your customer, whether it's a one-on-one or a group presentation, you want to create that value exchange. And the platinum rule is always treat them as they want to be treated. Benefit selling. I'm going to ask some questions. You've heard of Bose, and I'm sure most of you are in the lighting business, okay? Bose, what does Bose sell? Tell me what Bose sells. Anybody? Tell me what they sell.
Okay, speakers, sound equipment. Thank you, Michael Hawkins.
Speakers. Good. Speakers, headphones, radios, right? And what do lighting companies sell?
High performance lighting.
High performance lighting, fixtures, bulbs, lamps, right?
Luminaires.
Here's what I want to caution you about. Whenever you see a company talk about what they sell the benefit, not the product. Sell the benefit, not the product. The point I'm making here is that Bose sells headphones, they sell speakers, they sell radios, but customers buy music, they buy sound. Like many of you said, many of you are thinking, they buy sound. When it comes to lighting, you guys in the lighting business, you sell luminaires, you sell fixtures, but customers buy light. Keep that in mind. When anytime you sell a product, sell the result of that product, the benefit that the customer gets from that particular product. We call that consultative selling, where you define and solve a problem and help customers make the right decisions because you want them to benefit from the products that you offer. The right questions uncover what they call pain points. Whenever you're in a selling situation, what you're trying to get from your customer is, what's the pain point? What is the issue involved? And how can you solve that pain point with the benefit that the customer can derive from your particular product? Think of every time you go to a doctor, you've got a pain somewhere, and that doctor asks you, what's your pain point, before he recommends any solution, any benefit that he can come to. Improve the business of your customers. Keep that in mind every time you make a call on a particular customer. Okay. With that said, with that basis, let me get into effective presentation skills. That's what this is all about. Highly effective presentation skills, both oral and written communications. Those are the things that you must develop on an ongoing basis. And don't forget about the nonverbal communications. This is a nonverbal communication, okay? You don't want to see that in a presentation. What you want to see is another nonverbal communication, and that's this one. You don't want to see this, you want to see this. You don't want to see this, you want to see this, okay? So these are nonverbal communications, and keep track of those because people give those out all the time. This particular presentation is going to try to stimulate your thinking by engaging, somewhat entertaining. I like to, in today's world, you almost have to incorporate some kind of entertainment in your presentations. But more importantly, you need to inform your audience about something that maybe they just don't know. This first 30-minute presentation is all about preparation. Next week, we're going to talk about presentation strategy. Those two are key because those are the strategies that you must consider before you sit down to prepare for your presentation. And then we'll wrap it up on May 16th with organization, presentation techniques, and your personal delivery. All of it will flow in that regard. And the content is what we need to concentrate on, because if your content isn't powerful, if your content doesn't leave a message with your audience, then you really don't have anything. And what we're going to try to do is two things. We're going to confirm what you already know, and I'm sure many of you have given presentations over the years, and there's a lot of stuff you know, and that's good. And we're going to try to confirm and reinforce those things that you know. And hopefully, maybe you can learn something new that I can bring to the party, okay? First of all, you owe your audience a good performance. That's number one. Whether you're a ball player, whether you're an actor, whether you're doing any kind of presentation, you owe your audience a good performance, and it's directly related to your preparation. If you cheat on your preparation, it's going to show up in your presentation. So that's the first lesson here. So, and there was someone that said, there's always some kid who may be seeing me for the first or last time. I owe him my best. I wonder if anyone can recognize that quote and give me an answer as to who do you think that is? He's probably the third best Yankee of all time.
Well, we got Kobe Bryant, so that's not a Yankee. Kobe Bryant is one guess.
Okay. Anybody else? I've been to his restaurant in San Francisco.
Any other ideas? All right, here we go. Jeter, Derek Jeter?
Jeter? Well, I don't know if he's from San Francisco, but this guy's from San Francisco. The guy who said that was Joe DiMaggio. I know I'm dating myself a little bit, folks, but when I heard this, I said, here's a guy, a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest Yankees, and he says, I owe him my best. And you owe your audience the best. I just want to point out something here with this particular photo. This is a very interesting, I'm glad I found this particular picture. This photo demonstrates the setup in a room that is ideal for a good sales presentation. You see the audience, and you see the speaker, and you see the screen. The screen is to the right of the audience, and the speaker is to the left of the audience. Left to right. That's how we read. we read left to right. So this is a very effective way for the audience to follow the speaker, to listen to the speaker and then follow it from the screen on the right, left to right, left to right. And his particular computer is right in front of him. So he never has to turn his back on the audience to look at the screen. He can see whatever is on that screen on his computer, and he can keep contact with the audience. And that's a very effective way to give a presentation. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk more about that when we get into the session about positioning. The point here is, though, in preparation, always start with your audience, with the customer. Remember, you're speaking to individuals, even they just happen to be in a group. There's individuals in that audience. So try to maintain contact with everybody in the room. If anyone gives you an assignment to give a presentation, always ask them, who am I speaking to? What are the titles? What are the job responsibilities? What are the functions? What is the age, the gender, the psycho, any information you can get from the assignment. Know your customer. Know your customer as thoroughly as you possibly can, because then you can have that value exchange that I talk about. The value exchange about them knowing you and you knowing them. You can have a nice conversational discussion about what you're trying to sell. Remember this guy? The will to win, the will to win. One day at an interview, I listened to an interview that of Bobby Knight, and they asked him, Bobby, when you recruit somebody for the University of Indiana, and I understand he also coached at Texas Tech, do you look for the will to win? And after he beat up the interviewer, as he always does, he said, that's a stupid question. You know, every athlete that I've ever interviewed has the will to win. What I look for is the will to prepare to win. Champions train, losers complain. I look for champions. I want them to prepare to win. What does that mean? Before you start your presentation, make sure you start with asking yourself these 5 questions. First, why are you on the program? There's got to be a reason. You've been assigned the program, or the audience has asked you to make a presentation to the group. Find specifically why you're on the program. Again, know your audience. Who are you going to be addressing? What do they know? Ask them or find out ahead of time what they know, because the worst thing that can happen is if someone in the audience, especially if it's a top guy in the audience, says, Bill, we already know that. Can you move on? You don't want that to happen in your presentation. So find out what you're in. If you're talking to engineers and architects and designers, you may want to know what they know about the product that you're talking about. And what is your central theme? Very important, because you got to stick with that central theme throughout your presentation. And then what is your call to action? Call to action is typically at the end of your presentation. Maybe it's just to move the sale along, but maybe it's to close the sale. And if it's to close the sale, be sure you have the rationale to take that action. Rationale, the reasons that that particular audience should take that particular action. And there's 2 things that we have to be concerned about. Internal and external research. If you're going to prepare for your presentation, you got to do the internal and external research, and always prepare yourself for both positive and negative attitudes in that audience. Not everyone is going to support what you're saying. You've got to prepare yourself for that. Look to the people that will support you, but make sure you understand you've got to do the research. Now, what do I mean by internal and external research? In business and in marketing, and especially, and in management, we talk about the SWOT analysis. That is a very good guideline for you to talk about, to think about when you're preparing your presentation. Now, I don't want you to use the term strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in your presentation. That's too academic, okay? But strengths, the first thing you have to focus on when you're preparing your presentation is what are the real strengths of your product, of your company, of what you're trying to present. You don't have to label it strengths. You just have to define it as particular strong points of your presentation. Weaknesses are something that you have to consider. Don't incorporate those into your presentation unless you have some solution to those weaknesses. Or what I'm basically saying is be prepared for a weakness that may come up in the meeting that you have to answer to, okay? Strengths and weaknesses are all internal research that you must prepare in order to get your presentation off on a good footing. Opportunities and threats are all external to what's happening, external to the presentation. What are the opportunities in the marketplace that you must consider, that the audience should consider? Again, don't label it opportunities and threats, but specifically have slides that address the opportunities that that particular client will have to address in order to take advantage of what you're trying to sell. And as you can see in that little chart, there's a pestle analysis that we talk about. Opportunities deal with political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. Those are all the external influences that you have to consider, okay? Marketing mix. I teach marketing for 20 years, and we always talked about the 4 Ps. Well, we no longer talk about the 4 Ps. We talk about the 4 Cs. I'm not going to ask you, you probably know what the 4 Ps are, but I wonder how many out there know what the 4 Cs are. Well, here they are. Customer, cost, convenience, communication. Customer, product was the customer. Whatever the customer wants, that was the product. And that could be services, that could be anything that the customer wants. Price was the P for the cost. Convenience, that was the place. But as you know, today, we don't shop exclusively in brick and mortar retail stores anymore. We do a lot of shopping online, and that's convenience. You can buy stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning in your pajamas, okay? But we're going to talk about this particular subject, promotion. That's the P for communications, and that's the subject of this particular subject, effective presentations, okay? This is my granddaughter, Matilda, right here, and she's passing this soccer ball. I don't know how many are playing soccer today or have played soccer, but I was very interested. I go to all her games. She's a terrific soccer player, and she's going to University of Tampa, by the way. Anyway, I heard the coach running up and down the field saying, pass with a purpose, pass with a purpose, pass with a purpose. And I said to myself, you know something? Prepare with a purpose. That lends itself to a good preparation, a good presentation, if you can prepare with a purpose. Effective performance is preceded by painstaking preparation. That's what Brian Tracy says. So prepare with a purpose. I don't know if you know this guy. I like to end with this particular quote from someone that maybe you heard of. His name is Sam Huff. And Sam was, he defined the middle linebacker position for the New York Giants 30 years ago. And I understand Sam just passed away last year. But they asked him one time about football. And then when he was retiring, and here's what he said: I love playing football. They don't pay me for the games on Sunday. They pay me for the practices during the week. They pay me for the practices during the week. That's the hard work, folks. It's the practices. It's the preparation. It's the hard work that you have to do before that game on Sunday. And if you win on Sunday, you feel good about that practice. It's like riding that wave. How do you think that surfer felt after he rode a wave, a 100-foot wave? How do you think Sam Huff and football players feel after they win on Sunday? But also, how do you think they feel when they lose? Do you think they just practice a little bit harder during the week? Maybe that's true. Anyway, that's the lesson here is preparation, and the harder you work, whether you win or lose, you got to work hard at the preparation. Next week, we're going to do presentation skills strategy. You see presentation strategy right here? That's May 9th. So we did preparation and we're going to do presentation skills. And that's going to cover 3 points: objective, attention to detail, and very powerful. Look forward to, maybe you know this, but for those of you that know, color is a very important part of any presentation, and I'll try to demonstrate that next week. So we're going to have the objective. Always think of the audience and the content. That's the objective. We're going to talk about the use of PowerPoint and what's the most effective way to use PowerPoint. We're going to talk about attention to detail. Detail, very important. Your slides have to be very, very effective in communicating what your thoughts are to your audience, okay? And you got to say it with color, and we'll talk about that. Color has a very effective way of presenting your thinking to your audience, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to leave you with this final quote. Remember this guy? His name is Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe Frazier. And he had 3 of the most amazing title bouts with Muhammad Ali. Won 1, lost 2. And I'll leave you with this quote. It has to do with preparation. If I cheated on my road work in the dark of the early morning hours, I get found out now under the bright lights on fight night. If you don't do the work, folks, you get found out the day of your presentation. Look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you all.